Thank you everybody for coming to our information session. Um, it is my pleasure to welcome you. I am Ann Schluter. I am the coordinator for the RPG Research Postgraduate Program here at PolyU. And I'm joined by our three esteemed Hong Kong PhD fellows, Lucas Peltonen, John Gana, and Sopruchi Abo. And they are going to be helping out. And also I'm joined by Professor Stefano Occhipinti, who is the head of the Departmental Research Center and is also in charge of the RPG program. So yeah, welcome. And this is the general overview of the talk today. So you can see we're going to begin by looking at John's and Sopruchi's and Lucas's study experiences, and also they're going to be providing application tips. And then we're going to cut to me. I'm going to give you an overview of the Department of English and Communications PhD program, the logistical information, and then there's going to be a Q&A session. So with no further ado, I will cut to Lucas Peltonen. Lucas, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Let me share my screen. And can everyone see my screen? There it is. Okay, good. So thank you. Yeah, all right. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I hope that I can provide some insight into my experience that might help you as you consider a PhD. So I wanted to talk about 3 strands of learning in the PhD process. And again, my name is Lucas Peltonen. So the first thing, there's a fundamental question, and this is a question for yourself. You're going to be asked it as you write applications and as you have these interviews, but you really want to be able to have a good answer for yourself, and that's why do you want to do a PhD? Here are some answers to that question. You know, we have some stronger answers and some less strong answers. So stronger answers might be, I love research, I'm curious, I'm self-motivated, I found a research gap, I think school is cool, I want to learn, I value feedback. And so as you can see, those are intrinsic, those are inside of you, and those are positive. Perhaps some less strong answers would be, I want to be called doctor, I'm bored, I don't like my job, I think I'm so clever, I don't know, I finished my master's and I'm lost, I think my parents want me to. And so you can see those are extrinsic, those are sort of a little more outside of you, and those are either neutral or negative. So what I've come to learn in the PhD process is actually there's 3 strands of learning. And this came as a surprise to me because I just, when I was applying, I just thought about the academics, but the strands that I've discovered are academics, acculturation, and affinity. And those are big words, but that's okay, because I'm going to go through and I'm going to define them and I'm going to explain what I mean. So for academics, that is of or relating to performance in courses of study. So that's your research tasks, how you perform your research, how you do in your classes, etc. And for me, this is the most obvious. It's what's mostly talked about. And there's a lot of systems and traditions in place. You have supervisors, you have feedback, you have confirmations, peer review, and assessments. And so this is the most well-established and concrete. But when you think about academics as you're applying, I think you might want to ask yourself some questions about your academic pursuits. And these questions are very quantitative. They have solid answers, you know. So what will I study? Who can be my supervisor? What program can I attend? What classes do I have to take? How do I do good research and write a strong thesis? And does the faculty align with my interests, right? If you want to study 18th century Finnish literature and there's no one in the faculty that has expertise in that, obviously that is not an alignment. But the next strand was a shock to me, and it's acculturation, and that's assimilation into a different culture. So that's sort of joining a different culture. And by that, I mean joining the culture of academia, of the academic environment. And no one told me about this, and I didn't even know to ask. And I think it's more challenging because it's not as quantifiable, it's fluid, it's harder to find, but it's sort of like, how do I fit into an academic environment? And this includes interacting with professors, handling resource staff like librarians or IT, interacting with administrators, how you behave in class or the office. And so what was a big surprise to me and what I want to impart to you is that you're not just learning research, you're learning how to function in the whole environment. So regarding acculturation, as you consider applying, I think you might want to ask yourself these questions. And these are much more subjective than the first group of questions. And that's, what kind of supervisor do I want? And do I like my potential supervisor? Do I think they like me or at least respect me? What's the culture of the school, of the department? How do I think I can adjust to the rigors and joys of an academic environment? And do the answers to any of the above change the way I need to approach my application process? It's going to be a different answer for everyone. Some people want a friendly supervisor that they can go to lunch with. Other ones want a more stern supervisor who's going to put pressure on them. And others want a more hands-off supervisor that they can just turn to at times. So these are answers that you're going to want for yourself as you move forward. The third strand is affinity, defined as a natural liking for and understanding of someone or something. And that's just sort of who you like, your network. Again, I didn't anticipate the importance of this, though in retrospect, it seems obvious, but here you are, you're far away from home, you're away from your friends and your family, and suddenly you find yourself in Hong Kong. And so questions you might want to ask yourself are, can I be far away from home for a long time? Do I have to make plans to go home more often? How should I personally adjust to life in Hong Kong? Who will be my support network? How do I build relationships in Hong Kong and PolyU, the department? And these are very personal questions. For me, it became extremely important to build networks within the department so I had people to go to. And then outside of the department, I did sports and other activities where I built other networks. And those came to be incredibly important in my study because you have times when you have a lot of work and you feel pressure and you need to be with people who support you. So that was much more important than I ever imagined it would be. And it is something I think you should think about as you're applying. So that said, I want to give a little advice, okay? We define it as guidance or recommendations offered with regard to prudent future action. So I kind of want to offer some advice that might help you. And I'm going to give one piece of advice for each of the three strands, one piece of advice for academics, one for the acculturation, and one for affinity. So for academics, find a niche, find a little area that you are passionate about, and identify a research gap that you can spend the next 3 to 4 years investigating. You're really going to need to be self-motivated. You're going to need that internal passion. Of course, there are going to be highs and lows along the way, but you're going to need that as your foundation that you always go back to no matter what happens. For acculturation, I would say find an environment with like-minded people who you feel comfortable with and learn how to join the culture of that environment with intentionality, flexibility, and reflection. What I mean by intentionality is understand what you need and understand what you're trying to learn as you join the culture of that environment so that you can function optimally and be the most comfortable. And for affinity for those networks, and this is probably the most simple advice, but it's also could be the most difficult, and that's just know yourself, know what you need in terms of your social life, of friendship support and happiness, and build those things as soon as you can. If you ask 10 PhD students how they would answer this, you're going to get 10 very different answers, and that's okay. It's just what you need for yourself to set yourself up for success. So I really do hope that this department here at PolyU is the right one for you, and I do encourage you to apply. I just wanted to make sure to give you enough context so that you could put yourself in a position to be successful. And I'll be around a little bit later to answer questions. So thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you very much, Lucas. Now we are going to move on to a joint presentation by Soparuchi and by John. So take it away, guys.
Thank you, Anne. So in this session, I and John will be talking about applying for PhD studies at ENGL PolyU. And then I will talk about applying to HKPFS generally. And then I'll also make reference to the studentship. And then I'll give some pieces of advice for applicants. And then John will talk about transitioning to HK and then PhD life in Hong Kong and in PolyU. So one thing I want to say is that for your application, the earlier you start, the better for you, because it's not going to be an easy task. You really need to start on time so that you'll be able to complete the application before the deadline. And while you do that, you also need to have identified a research interest, which also align with the research interest, at least of one of the professors in the department. And then when you have that, you can email potential supervisors and then ask them for availability to supervise you. And you really need to study the requirements so that you know what you need during the application process. And you need to pay attention to deadlines. There is no extension. And when you have identified the research interest and you've emailed a potential supervisor and you've got his or her consent, one thing you need to do is to write a strong research proposal. Research proposal is a very important component of PhD application here at PolyU. And you can as well seek advice from a potential supervisor. You can seek for his or her comment if he is available to do so. And for those of us in Africa who applied from Africa, getting all the required documents can be asking, and that is why it is necessary for you to start early. You need to prepare your transcripts, you need to get your certificates, you need to get recommendation letters, you need to draft a very well academic CV, and then paying for application can be very difficult. So if you're somewhere that you can pay application directly, you can probably reach out to someone in Hong Kong or someone elsewhere that will help you to pay. And for me, I think what made my application to stand out was my overall academic excellence and the few publications that I have and some research experience that I was able to get before applying. And then some leadership abilities and communication skills that I have. So when you are applying, especially for HKPFS, there are 4 criteria. And one is academic excellence, another one is research experience, the other one is leadership abilities and communication skills. And you also have to demonstrate cultural diversity as well. So these are some of the advice that I have. For instance, like I said before, you need to get a consent and support of a potential supervisor before applying. It is really, really important. And then your research interest should align with your potential supervisors. And this is how the research proposal looks like. So you need to state the name of a proposed chief supervisor and include your project title, the project objectives, and then the scope and background of the research, your research methodology, and project significance and value. Research at PolyU emphasize impact. So we really need to see your significance and value of your project. And you can as well include a time frame. You can do that using a simple Gantt chart. And then also remember to include the references of your proposal. And you need to be sure of those who you are asking to be your referees. They really need to be those who know you and who can submit the referees for deadline, the recommendation letters before deadline. And you need to review your application for any errors before submitting. This is really, really important. Some people have missed out on the scholarship because of one error that they could have avoided. And in your essays, because you need to write some essays during the application process, and in these essays, you have to be specific. You don't have to write something that anybody can write, and you can't really see any specific thing as to how it applies to you. So you need to be specific. And these are some of the questions that you need to address in the essays. So you need to describe your past research experience or participation in research projects, which is about 7,500 characters, including spaces. And then you need to describe your proposed research topic. You need to describe your proposed research plan for doctoral research. And you also need to state some reasons for wishing to pursue PhD studies in Hong Kong. And you need to include your long-term career plan and the possible contribution that you would like to make to the development of research in Hong Kong. And then lastly, you need to include other information in relation to the application for Hong Kong PhD fellowship. So you need to take these parts of the application very seriously and do not exceed what counts. It's really, really important that you don't exceed what. And to promote anonymity, you don't need to mention the name of your proposed university in these essays, because if you're going to be nominated for HKPFS, the reviewers need not know the universities you applied to. So you can just say, for instance, in question 4, where you're asked to state the reasons for wishing to pursue PhD studies in Hong Kong, you can just say, if I'm admitted to a university in Hong Kong, rather than mentioning PolyU. And you would also want to know that your research proposal has to go through plagiarism check. So you don't want to submit a plagiarized proposal. And you don't need to be modest in your application. If you have any achievement that is related to your application that you think will make you a very competitive candidate, include them. And then keep your eye on your mailbox for interview invitations or information requests, so that you will not miss out on any opportunity. So at this point, I will hand it over to John to continue. Thank you.
I'm muted. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this part of the presentation deals with the assumption that you've gone through the very rigorous selection process and you've been awarded the HKPFS or the studentship to begin your academic journey at PolyU and in Hong Kong. So you might want to ask the question, how is the transition going to be like from wherever you are to Hong Kong? And this is my experience. It's subjective, but I think that it's useful for anybody. Yeah, so in coming to Hong Kong, I found the transition process rather very smooth because there are very functional systems in Hong Kong. And I say this because I was fortunate to come to Hong Kong from Norway, and I had lived in Norway for over a decade. And I know how things function there. Things function very smoothly. And so when I came to Hong Kong, I found a similar situation. For example, ID registration, which legitimizes your stay in Hong Kong, goes really very fast and smoothly. Finding your way around Hong Kong in terms of transportation is also very smooth. You get octopus cards for your bus and train transportation. So for me, I found the experience very enjoyable. But having said that, there were major challenges for me. And for those of us applying from different parts of the world, apart from Hong Kong, you know that Hong Kong is a very far place. So it's very distant from home. It's a new culture. And obviously, you'll be confronted with time difference and also a language barrier. But you have to overcome these challenges. You know, you could just complain and feel sorry for yourself. But I think that if you work very hard to overcome these challenges, you will find your stay in Hong Kong very enjoyable. And for me, one of the ways I overcame the distance from home and navigating this new culture was to join the Association of Ghanaian Scholars in Hong Kong, which provided community support for Ghanaian students. I later on became the president of this association, and we have a very vibrant community. So if you come to Hong Kong, you should definitely look for students from your home country or support communities to join. Then I think it's also very useful to learn some basic expressions in Cantonese. I don't remember these expressions now, but I did learn a few. It helps you, you know, at the market to be able to communicate with people. If you take the taxi, for example, not all taxi drivers speak English. So you might want to learn some basic Cantonese expressions so that you can get your way around town quite easily. Also, making friends with locals and my Chinese colleagues was very, very useful. I think Lucas mentioned the same, and this can help you overcome the challenge of not being home, being far away from home. And some of them, really helped me to buy things and to communicate with local traders when I couldn't communicate with them. So this is very useful. And also, like Lucas mentioned, participating in social activities can help your transition very much. I love to play football. So I played football like 3 times a week. And because of that, I got to know a lot of places in Hong Kong because I was going from one place to the other, playing football. So then it helps you to really get by. So this is very useful as well. How about your PhD life in HK? And in particular in PolyU, I would say that in HK, I really love the cosmopolitan nature of the city because you find people from different cultures in Hong Kong. So you don't walk around feeling like a total stranger. You are likely to find people from your country, wherever you are coming from. So I love the city because of that. And oh yes, the food. Yeah. So much food around, PolyU in particular. You don't have to walk too far. You will get access to, assorted cuisines, and you can just enjoy these meals the way you want. And there are beautiful islands to see. I mean, so much more to see in Hong Kong. So if like Lucas said, if you are under this pressure of academic work, you can take a break and visit some of these places, refresh, revitalize, and come back and engage. And the city never sleeps. Of course, having come from Ghana, this was something I was looking forward to because the city never sleeps and you kind of are awake all the time, and I sort of loved it. So that's something to look forward to. But for PolyU in particular, you can be sure that it's a cutting-edge university with world-class facilities, research opportunities, and networks. So it makes the PhD life very exciting. I can tell you for a fact that a PhD in PolyU is a never to regret experience. We also have state-of-the-art library, access to journals, scientific publications, and a lot of funds for research. And so you feel the challenge to do research, the pressure to do research, but also the process is enjoyable because you have all the support you need from professors, from colleagues, and from the university itself to enable you succeed in your research. And yes, for those who are coming from Africa, there is a growing and vibrant international or Afro community in PolyU in particular. I could say the same for other nationals, but having been the president of the Association of Ghanaian Scholars for 2 years, I've been part of organizing platforms for African PhD students or African scholars in Hong Kong. And I can tell you that this has grown over the last years. So you won't be alone, right? Okay, so here is just an advice. There is an African proverb that says that travel and see. So put aside your prejudice and choose Hong Kong or choose PolyU. You will not regret it. This is just an advice I am giving. Yeah, because I came from Norway to Hong Kong and I was amazed at what I experienced. So put away the prejudice and just come. Yeah. Now, like Sopuruchi said during the application, don't be modest, but be authentic and highlight the significance or value of a PhD from Hong Kong to your home country. This is also very important because then we understand that this will be of significance to you and to other people as well. And if you don't get selected the first time, don't give up. I got awarded in my second attempt. So just don't give up, persist. Hong Kong is definitely the place to be, and PolyU in particular. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, John. Thank you, Soparuchi. We are going to have a Q&A session after I give an overview of the program. So yeah, let me go ahead and get into that here. So let me share my screen. And of course, I'm joined here by Dr. Stefano Occhipinti, who is in charge of the RPG program. So he will be kind of accompanying me here. Yeah, okay, so let's get into it.
Just to be clear, Anne is the program director for the RPG program. As the chair of the departmental research committee, I have ultimate oversight over the program, but a lot of the running and a lot of the main work will be done by Anne.
Okay, thanks. All right, so let's get into it here. A little bit about the department. So our mission is linguistic excellence in professional contexts. We are an interdisciplinary department composed of linguistics and communication experts from around the world. Also, we have PhD students from around the world. So you can see our staff here. Yeah, a lot of international faces here, and these are leading experts in teaching and research. Yeah, you can see some more here. And in terms of rankings, PolyU is ranked quite high at this point. According to the QS World University Rankings of 2024, PolyU is currently 65th in the world. And linguistics in particular is now rated 73rd in the world. And just to give you just a little bit of context, so the University of Queensland in Australia is rated 86th. The University of York is rated 92, and Columbia University, a household name, but ranked 95. So we're pretty proud of our rankings, and PolyU is a great place to be. So we divide our teaching and research areas into five clusters, including language and professional communication, language teaching and learning, English language and applied linguistics, media and communication, and then area studies and intercultural communication. So I'm going to be going over what these mean, and also giving you some insight into the people who are working in these areas, because you as potential PhD students, you as applicants, you start your application process by going to one of these research clusters, clicking on it, and then looking at the different research areas of the faculty members in the department. And then you go ahead and you contact somebody who looks like they have overlapping research interests as you do, to see if they could possibly be your supervisor. So let's get into it. You can see the first strand, language and professional communication. So we have healthcare communication, we have political communication, professional communication, and scholarly communication. And you'll see that there are asterisks next to some people's names, but not other people's names. The asterisks, this is also on the website when you're looking at things. If somebody has an asterisk next to their name, they can be chief supervisor. They have been chief supervisors before, and they can do so without a co-supervisor. However, more junior scholars like Dr. Margot Turnbull, me as well, we do not have asterisks next to our name, which means that we will need to also have a co-supervisor. So in thinking about approaching us, it's a good idea to think about, like, okay, yeah, there's a chief supervisor. maybe they have expertise in part of the research proposal that you want to put forward, but then maybe there's somebody else, a more senior colleague, who has complementing expertise, and they could work well together. So you could think about that.
And in fact, Anne, I would add there at that point that a lot of the best PhDs have a strongly sort of collaborative component. So it doesn't merely have to be the case that you only think about an additional supervisor if you have a supervisor who doesn't have an asterisk there. Think about putting together the strongest possible team for your project and for your career beyond. Great,
thanks, Stefano. So this is research area 1, as I said, language and professional communication. You can read the blurbs; they're online as well. So the second research area, language teaching and learning, and you can see English as a lingua franca, English for specific purposes. Second language acquisition, we have a lot of people in the department looking into second language acquisition research. And then second language writing. Okay, so yeah, once you find somebody who has interests that look like they overlap with yours, go ahead and take a look at their current research projects and really see how well the overlap works. Okay, research area number 3, English language and applied linguistics. So this research area includes all areas of study on the English language and within the field of linguistics. It's pretty broad. So we have clinical linguistics, we have cognitive linguistics, corpus linguistics, sociolinguistics, and systemic functional linguistics. All right, and now we have media and communication. So this research area focuses on all aspects of media communication in various contexts. So these could include creative cultural industries, public communication, and corporate communication. This area analyzes language, image, sound, and other semiotic resources in old and new creative media, including advertisements, news, comics, film, and television from different theoretical approaches. So critical discourse analysis, Dr. Kathleen Ahrens does this, but we also have a lot of discourse analysis going on, as you can see from the 4 scholars here, and then public health messaging as well. And then finally, we have area studies and intercultural communication. And that is comprised of strands on language and migration, as well as multilingualism and multiculturalism. And again, I invite you to explore the website, go into each of these strands, and then look at the different supervisors' areas of specialties, and then seeing what looks like it's a good fit for your research area. Because that's ultimately going to be where the connection is made, right? You could be an excellent candidate, but if your research interests don't align with anyone's in the department, then it would be better to go to a different department, right? So really look into this, really research this and find these links. Okay, we have 2 research centers. One is the International Research Center for the Advancement of Health Communication. And you can see here some of the kind of objectives, mission statements, to deliver global healthcare communication research under the challenges of aging populations and emerging diseases. To focus on the social psychology of language in healthcare communication, the role of the organizations, groups, and individuals in negotiating patient care, and the links between community and hospital care. And then to impact the development of healthcare policy, healthcare education, best practice guidelines for healthcare professionals, patient safety, and quality of care. The second research center we have here is the Research Center for Professional Communication in English. So the objective here is to provide a forum for academics and practitioners with an interest in communication in professional settings. You'll see there's a lot of emphasis on professional communication in our department. This is one of our major strengths. Yeah, and then to engage with each other and exchange ideas. Another objective is to create and host online specialized corpora for researcher and practitioner reference, to promote best practices in professional communication, and to promote knowledge transfer of applied linguistics research to the wider community. So here you can see an example of the profession-specific corpora that we have on the website. So we've been collecting a lot. So you can see Hong Kong Corpus of Spoken English, Hong Kong Corpus of Surveying and Construction Engineering, Hong Kong Engineering Corpus, and so on. Okay, we also have award-winning teachers and researchers, as you can see here. And we have, I think, 9 more coming in the coming month. So a lot of award winners here in both research and teaching. And yeah, I should really draw your attention though to, we have Professor Guangwei Hu, who's now one of the top 2% of scientists in the world. Yeah, according to the newly released metrics compiled by Stanford University. So it's pretty big time, and he's a popular supervisor. So yeah, we have that going for us. Good. So you can also see our projects and publications as evidence of research excellence. So you can see some outstanding performance in the General Research Fund. So again, Professor Guangwei Hu here, Dr. Phoebe Lin, Dr. Margot Turnbull, Dr. Hans Ladegaard, Dr. William Fang, looking at a diverse array of topics. And you know, this is also a good thing to consider. If they have these projects going on, then they're probably looking for students who are interested in working in similar fields, or even just working in synchronicity with the given project. Yeah.
And in fact, Dan,
yeah, go ahead.
the GRF proposals will usually have a PhD place built into them for the last couple of years. So this year, Ming Karan, who was on that list, he received a GRF looking at online language teaching and language attitudes. I received a GRF looking at stigma in health. So both of those projects will have a PhD place in them.
Great, thanks a lot. Yeah, and we're really thinking about, as a department, focusing on these strands, yes, so it's a really good idea for you as a PhD student to figure out where you fit into these strands, and these projects give you insights into that fit. Yeah. So in addition to these GRF projects, here we also have evidence of research excellence in the form of publications. So you can see some books that have come out by our colleagues on diverse topics: metaphor and psychotherapy, language and dementia, the discourse of powerlessness and repression with respect to domestic migrant workers of Hong Kong, online place branding in Hong Kong. So a lot going on. Okay, and these are the key features of the Hong Kong Fellowship Scheme. You can see that the awardee will receive an annual stipend of 331,200 Hong Kong dollars, which is approximately 42,460 US dollars for the entire normal study period. In addition, the awardee will get an annual conference grant of 13,800 Hong Kong dollars, or 1,760 US dollars for the entire normal study period. And that's pretty good. A lot of PhD programs don't offer these perks. Also, from PolyU, you'll get a tuition waiver scholarship for the entire normal study period, and a cash award. So approximately 5,120 US dollars or 40,000 Hong Kong dollars for the first year, and 20,000 Hong Kong dollars or approximately 2,560 US dollars per year from the second year to the end of the normal study period. So I keep saying normal study period, and let me just specify that that means 3 years. So upon joining PolyU, PhD students have 36 months in which to complete their thesis. And then finally, in addition, there's guaranteed university accommodation because, you know, in Hong Kong, housing can be difficult to secure. We recognize that. So for the first 2 years of the three-year program, you have guaranteed university accommodation. And here are some graduates of the Hong Kong PhD fellowship scheme. We have Isaac from Ghana, and he is currently a lecturer in the Department of English at the University of Cape Coast. Those of you joining us from Ghana probably know him. He's really a fan of PolyU. He speaks really well about it, and I think each year we get applicants from him. So thank you, Isaac, and hello to all of you who Isaac has sent our way. We also have Dr. Estorino Neverino. She is currently an assistant professor at the City University of Hong Kong. And then finally, we had graduate Dr. Daniel Rechtenwald of Germany, who is now the product manager of Digitale Assistance at DB Vertrieb. Yeah, so in Germany, of course. So some exciting things that our graduates are doing. It could be you. Let's see. So admissions requirement. So academic qualification. You should have an MPhil, an MA, or a research postgraduate degree with a dissertation, thesis, or the equivalent. So some universities in Australia, for example, have maybe a 5-year undergraduate program that has some kind of research component built into it. It's very intensive, and we can consider that as well. It needs to be conferred by a recognized university. So yeah, you also need to have your bachelor's degree with first-class honors or the equivalent conferred by a recognized university. There's an English proficiency requirement. So in order to qualify, applicants need to fulfill one of the following English language requirements if the degree is not from a university using English as a medium of instruction. So there needs to be an overall score of at least 6.5 in the IELTS, or at least a 550 in the test of English as a foreign language for the paper-based test, or at least an 80 on the internet-based tests. And just keep in mind, if you took the test a while ago, language test scores are considered valid for 2 years after the date of the test. So you may need to refresh it. You may need to take the test again if it's been longer than 2 years. Okay, important dates. So you will see on the website that there is, December 1st at noontime is the deadline that the Research Graduate Committee, the RGC, sets for receiving applications. And then the 1st of December is also the deadline set by PolyU, but at midnight for applications. In addition to the application fee. Yeah. However, it's important, very important to note that we have an internal departmental deadline of the 20th of November. And that is largely because it's a complex process, uploading all these different documents. It could be that the document that you've uploaded, your transcript is actually hasn't been translated by an officially recognized translator. There are many different possible things that could go wrong. So our internal deadline that we all need to shoot for is the 20th of November. So that doesn't give us a lot of time. So really, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to go ahead, take a look at our list of research clusters, looking at the different staff members, different researchers working in these different clusters, and reaching out to the people who have overlapping interests with you. I strongly recommend you to do that as soon as possible, getting all your documents in order as soon as possible so that you can they'll be ready to upload by the 20th of November. Okay, so if you have inquiries, you can email, probably the preferred mode, Ms. Plosa Kwan at the email listed here. Of course, you could also call her. Good, and you can follow us on social media as well. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm now going to open the floor for some Q&A. And actually, I see that there are some questions here already. You guys are welcome to get on the mic. You're welcome to write the questions in the chat box. Let's see here.
Let's just take the two chat questions that came in first.
Okay, sounds good. So let's take a look here. Okay, so we have the question. May I know whether you could share some suggestions or tips for contacting the potential supervisor, if possible? So really, yeah.
Ahmad, could you please mute?
Yeah, somebody's on mic and making some noise, so it'd be great if yeah, okay, it sounds more silent now. Okay, so the question is suggestions or tips for contacting the potential supervisor. Really, that's a matter of finding somebody who shares your interests and emailing them.
You can get the contact details from the departmental website from the same place that you check out their various research strings.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can I add to that? Can I add to approaching the supervisor?
Please.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're talking a little bit vaguely about, know what their research interests are. And I would say you will want to have read very closely at least the most recent 5 articles that they've written, because you want to know what they're looking at now, because some of the professors have had very long careers with a lot of different things covered, and you want to know what they're focusing on now, and you want to make sure that that lines up with their expertise and what they focus on now. And I would also say, and I say at least 5, I would say much better, more than 10, and the other thing I would say is, as you approach them and perhaps you give an outline of your research idea, make sure you cite that professor in your ideas, right? Because that's not fake, that's not show, that's proof that what they do aligns with what you need, right? That's not an ego thing. It's just, that's like a self-test, a litmus test. So those are 2 pieces of advice. The third thing I would say is, don't rush it. If you're not ready now, wait for the next cycle. I know that I started preparing for mine over a year in advance, and I was going back and forth on my research proposal for at least 9 or 10 months, right? It's a real process. So to give yourself a chance at success, you need to put in the time and the effort. So that's what I would add to that. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Good. So the question is, can I be exempted from English requirements if I have a number of published articles in English? Unfortunately, the answer is no. I think you still need to you need to show evidence of your IELTS or TOEFL scores.
Simply having authorship of an article just doesn't really demonstrate for sure that you've got a certified level of English.
Yeah, of course, if you went to an English medium of instruction school, EMI school, you can be exempt. So that's a possibility. So that's probably the only type of exemption.
Now we could take the in-person question, because those were the two questions that came first.
Okay. Okay, we have some other questions going on here though.
Yeah, we've got a lot. Well,
Yeah. Uh yeah, okay, let's see if we have enough time to address them. Is it possible to get a template for writing the research proposal? Well, I think the best, actually, the closest we can come to it is what Superuchi provided. This kind of outline of, okay, past experience, participation in research, 7,500 characters, etc. I think that's the closest we can come to it. Yeah, 500 characters for the description of the project. But those are pretty clear guidelines.
you should probably be talking to your potential supervisor and running through the draft and everything of the research proposal with them too. That would be another way to get a sense of whether the structure is correct.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. And of course, Hong Kong PhD fellows who are here, feel free to jump in at any time with tips, etc. If I got my MA in NTU, Singapore, do I still need IELTS scores? Well, I'm assuming that it's English medium university. So if that's the case and that's official, then you do not, according to our policy.
But we'd have to make sure that that we'd have to see the actual application to make that kind of judgment, just because we'd have to see the whole record.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, for those who attended an English as a medium of instruction university, what you can do is to get a letter from your university to confirm that the medium of instruction was in English. For me, that attended a university in Nigeria, so my university has this provision where they just give you a letter to show that the medium of instruction is English. So you can just get that and then upload in place of your IELTS score. And I think that serves as enough.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, your experience is helpful. Are there any requirements for students' GPA? Well, I can say these requirements kind of change each year. And so we cannot give you any strict guidelines, but we can say that GPAs need to be high for the Hong Kong PhD fellow. And that can mean different things in different places. Like in Ghana, first class honors is a very different range from say China. So it's difficult. Go ahead.
No, we could say that really the university is aware of some of the particularities of some of the major grading schemes in the countries from which our fellows come, and so really you should be thinking about having a very high GPA as considered for your current location of study. Yes.
So the answer is high GPA. We cannot get into the specifics because the specifics change. And it also depends on the pool of applicants that they have. But they are looking for high GPAs. Yes, I can say that. The medium of instruction in the university I attended here in the Philippines is English. Can it be considered in the application? Yes. So again, you need to get some kind of document that shows evidence that English is a medium of instruction for that to be okay. But in principle, that can spare you the need to take one of the English proficiency exams. I'm not sure I understand this question.
I think that might be about the internal departmental deadline. I mean, in terms of what we can understand.
Okay.
December the 1st is the external deadline, but we have a departmental deadline of the 20th of November. So I suggest that when you are sent the link to the replay of this session, that you go back through it, especially if you had a network jam.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot. So November 20th, we are shooting for. Is there an age limit for applicants? So there's no age limit, and in fact, I would say some of our better students tend to be older than traditional students. You know, a lot of times you don't develop that academic maturity until later on. So if you're above average age, I encourage you still to apply. Yeah, is December 1st the only deadline? There's little time left. Well, so for the Hong Kong PhD fellowship, there's one round each year, and I want you to think of it as November 20th rather than December 1st. There are rounds for competitive schemes. So and the next round would be the 14th of February. However, of course, the deal is not the same. You don't get the same kind of stipend. You don't get the same you know, the same kinds of perks, but it is another option to have a funded PhD you know, to get into
And there's a range of them, so that, you know, some of them are still, well, they're all very competitive, but some of them still do have quite a handsome sort of package that goes with. It's just that clearly the HKPFS is, in a sense, the flagship program.
Yeah. Okay. I'm currently having a challenge contacting a potential supervisor. I've issued an email to 2 faculty members, but I haven't gotten feedback as of now. What is the way forward given the department deadline is the 20th of this month? Well, I know that supervisors get a lot of emails. And my understanding is that I mean, they'll do the vetting, and there are some that if your research interests don't look like they're aligned with theirs, or it doesn't look like the candidates are qualified, some of them don't respond because they get many emails.
I would add that I
ahead.
found one in my spam folder just earlier. So if you're potentially, if you're sending a lot of the same email to a lot of people within the network, you might be getting flagged. But that's a possibility for anyone.
Yeah, and you want to stand out. So of course, if I receive something that says I've looked over your profile and your research really speaks to me, and and I too want to pursue English language teaching research, then that's not my area, and it tells me immediately, it looks like this person really hasn't done their research, and I get emails like that on a regular basis as well. So yeah, so those maybe don't get responded to as frequently. So really try to tailor your email to the specific areas of expertise. Okay, yeah, I'm afraid we're not going to get to all the questions here. I wanted to be sure, with regard to the requirements, am I expected to have graduated with a first class in undergraduate in addition with my MA? So the undergraduate GPA is, for some reason we don't totally understand, is given more weight than the GPA for the MA. However, the MA you also need to have done pretty well in. But yeah, for some reason the undergraduate degree.
Realistically,
yes,
go, Sabrucci.
So I think for HKPFS, RGC prefers those who graduated first class in their undergrad. But for the research studentship, which is like the second option if you don't get the HKPFS, we have some students currently who graduated with second class upper. So I think you can be considered as well. So for studentship, you can be considered. But for HKPFS, it might be difficult.
Realistically, to have a shot at it, you would want to have, at the HKPFS, you would want to have sort of marks that will almost certainly get you a first class in your undergraduate. That's why it's kind of a requirement, but it's also just probably describing the sort of ideal candidate too.
Yeah, Good. It's 6:01. I'm going to answer this one last question.
Yeah.
And
We'll catch
go.
the rest and we'll feed them back to people.
Yeah,
by email.
absolutely. So, yeah, if we can have some kind of contact information, if you sent us a question we weren't able to get to, please direct message me with your email address and we can get back to them.
Well, we'll have people's emails too from who signed up for the thing, so we can
Okay. So then it's not so necessary.
We'll summarize the answers and we'll send them out to all.
Okay. So would you say that I should try to publish a paper first before applying for the PhD? I heard that it's required. So for the Hong Kong PhD fellowship scheme, it's a very, very good idea to have published something of merit, something in an international publication, so that you can have that on your CV when you apply. Yeah, that is strongly recommended. I can't say it's required, but it is that's gonna make you more competitive. Waqas, Ahmad, I saw you quickly raising your hand, I think. Did you want to ask something?
Yeah. Hi. Am I audible?
Hi.
Am I audible to you?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah. Actually, I hold a bachelor's degree in English literature and linguistics, which is a 4 years degree, and I do not have master's degree. But fortunately, I do have a gold medal in my BS degree. In addition to that, I do have 5 research publications. But the real problem here is my publications are all in ELT and English literature, like Romanticism and so on. So, but here I am going to apply to PhD in linguistics. 2 of my publications are still pending, which will be published in February 2024, probably. So if I submit the publications data like the previous publication, so would that be acceptable? Like, do that will be having a tag in the application process?
I think that's a very specific question about a very specific case. I think you better email that question through, and we can sort of like look at the specifics of it. I don't think we can do it justice here.
Yeah, but an MA is a requirement. So if you don't have an MA yet, come back to us and once you finish your
Actually, I saw some details on the website. Like, I was preparing for this program from the previous September. I do have my recent proposal for PhD. So I read some news there that those candidates who do not have a master's degree will be given 4-year PhD programs admission.
Okay, that is no longer the case. That's a good question, and I appreciate your bringing it up. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now it's a 3-year program, and students need to have MAs. Yeah.
That has been ended, like.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and email me. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to pursue your question further. Somebody who has a lot of publications,
Okay, thank you.
stands a pretty good chance. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, one last question, and then we're gonna have to call it a day. Yes.
A general question, yes.
Excuse me, can I ask you just one quick question?
Okay.
If it's a very specific question, we won't be able to answer it.
Okay. So before applying to the PhD, is it more important to have publications or to have a research experience?
I think you want both, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. If you have publications, that's going to show that you yourself know what it takes to write, to conceive of an article, write it up. So if you've been like a research assistant, that is helpful. But it's unclear, like to be successful, we want to be able to see that you can, you can get here and you can get to work immediately. And 36 months to write a thesis is not a long time. So you can sit down, get to work, you know what it takes. You're a good writer. And you understand the research process and the process of writing. So yes, a publication speaks to that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and thank you everybody for joining us. Appreciate it. So have a good evening, everybody, and yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing some of your applications on the 20th.